and welcome. Here we are again live with Sarah Troupe talking about episode 9 of her journey trying to land that first ServiceNow role. So, good morning, Sarah. How are
Good
you doing
morning.
today?
I'm great. It's a little
Well,
gloomy, but
yeah,
it's good.
that's fine. So, she's got some of the Pacific Northwest weather happening there in Nashville. So,
Yes.
I see and hear a bit of a difference there. So, talk about this microphone a bit if you don't mind.
Yeah, so it's a Blue Yeti. I got it for my daughter. She was into the ASMR and she wants to make YouTube videos about that because she's really good at storytelling. And yeah,
Oh,
so
that's fun.
I figured I
Yeah.
would use it today to look all
Oh, that's
professional.
well. It sounds great. Read a bit of the basics on the instructions. I don't know if you remember, but throughout these podcast journeys, I've been trying different stuff, and I finally settled on something. And I think in September,
Mhm.
earlier this month, actually, to with the settings on this one. So the settings plus the position really make for it. I mean, I still can lean in and talk if I want to, but I
Yes.
like it kind of, I gesture. So,
I know I talk
okay.
with my hands, so it's like I need to stand up.
hmm No, that's a good position though for it, right? Like we can see your face well and go through that. So, yay. Okay, so we got a couple things to talk about on today's episode. So the first one is a certification journey. So why don't
Yes.
you take us from the start of this?
So my CSA, I went through. So before the next gen and all that and the rise up rolled out, I was going through the I guess the modules, if you want to
hmm
call it. And there wasn't now learning, so I had to study and I didn't have videos and I had to YouTube a lot of stuff. But then I finally got my CSA, and now through the internship through Customizo, it has been you need studied
Oh,
for like 2 weeks on the
hmm
ITSM, and I did not pass it. But it's a
okay.
learning curve. So, I did
hmm
not study the correct information. I only studied the fundamentals, and I did not study the, implementation, which is where all the questions come from.
Oh, yes, that's well. I tell newer developers or anybody that I'm kind of working with when they go, "Oh, it's something easy that I missed." I go, "Always be grateful when
Yeah.
it's something simple or something easy because then it's easier to fix or to correct and move
Yes.
forward." So, for all of you taking those tests out there, studying the entire course curriculum, doing any simulators, and then I believe they also have like those exam prep things with some example questions.
Yes.
Try to do all of it if you can, because the more you do, the better your chances of passing. And I would like to also officially welcome you to the Mainline Certification Exam Failure Club, of
Yes.
which I am a member as well. I Discovery was the one for me. So there was an on-demand course that I took. I took it twice. Was
Yes.
unsuccessful with it myself twice. I was unable to get past it one certain place in a lab, and everything in that course builds upon the previous work. So I
Yes.
basically got halfway through the labs in that course and then couldn't advance any further because it all built off of itself.
Yes.
Fast forward to me trying to take the tests, I realized I'm like, there's no way. I ended up having to pay for an instructor led course,
Yeah.
and then I was successful. So
Yeah. And I
happens
will
to us
say
all. Oh, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I will say that it took me I think 3 or 4 tries for the CSA. The first time I took it, I had studied and I was like, "I got this. I'm going in there. Like, I'm gonna pass it on the first try." Well, I did not pass it,
hmm
and it was probably another 9 months before I tried again um just because I didn't pass it, and I was, like, defeated, and then I went in there and took it again, and I was like, if, I knew what to study then. Like, I knew I had to
hmm
understand the concepts, not just the vocabulary, and that's a big thing. Like, you can understand the vocabulary, but if you don't understand the whole overall, concepts of ServiceNow, then, it's challenging to pass it.
Yes. That's very true. So
Yes.
not just understanding how what this is or what this role does or where to navigate to get into this one section, but how does
Yes.
that fit into the bigger picture?
Yes.
So broadening your horizons and understanding the platform at the granular level, but then also being able to zoom out and look at a 10,000-foot view
Yeah.
is going to help you be successful. So what turned the tide for you with the CSA exam? Like how did what
Oh,
kind
I
of
mean,
flipped the turned the page and made you able to pass it?
I honestly went and YouTubed, I found a really cool YouTuber. I think it's like Tech with Pre or something like that, and
Okay.
he broke down, like, everything and I guess, really he dumbed it down for me, and I started to understand the concepts a lot better, and I was like, "Oh, well, that's the reason why you have to do this." Um,
Hmm.
but just really, I've always been driven to, I mean, to just do things. I'm always I would say I'm always busy, but, um, not really busy, but I like to have a goal,
Hmm.
and because I hadn't passed it, I wanted to, put that under my belt that, "Hey, I can do this."
Yep.
So,
And you can, and I'm glad you did.
yeah.
I'm going to push back a little bit on the dumbed it down.
Yeah.
I think that breaking it down is a
Yeah.
great way to get that understanding. But I appreciate the joke. I know you
Yeah.
were,
Yeah.
yeah, being a
Yeah.
little humorous there. I just didn't want anyone to think,
No.
"Hey,
No.
you're dumb." If you go look, I'm like, I love look at stuff
No.
at the most simple way, and that brings us to the project that we're working on.
Yeah.
So we're working on this EV parking app, building all the custom tables, the foundation, all in our scoped app. And part of the journey is giving you very detailed, very granular stories as part of the documentation, and then you're going off and implementing it. So I've worked with other developers who say, your style is you break it down to such a level that you're quote dumbing it down, but at the same time I'm writing these stories for different audiences.
Yes.
So the business can look at one field and understand it. A developer or an implementer can look at another field and understand it. And then even a quality assurance person can look at it from a third field. And then finally, it all feeds into this larger project management thing, which we haven't covered. But when we get to the end,
Yes.
I'll run you through how that works as at a project level. And that'll be some real world experience. While it's a made up app, it still will be functional. It'll still
Yes.
be
I've
usable.
learned a lot so
Uh,
far.
yeah. So why don't you recap that a bit?
Oh, I would say just learning, um I would say learning the different roles and everything, like the stories, the enhancements, being able to go in there and do the tables and understand, okay, well, this is the reason why when you click this, it's not populating the list to be able to choose from,
Mhm.
things like that. And then now we're into the ACLs and, just trying. I mean, it's been awesome.
Good, good. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm having a good time with it as well.
Yeah,
You kind of mentioned the ACL piece where we found ourselves really struggling in one place because I tried honestly, I stepped in and kind of tried to fix it as best I
yes,
could and was unable to. And the only way that we were able to move forward was to recreate a table from scratch. And I still don't understand why the original one is not working, but
I'm not sure.
sometimes you just have to be like Elsa and let it go.
Let it
Um,
go. That's
and
great.
and move forward on that kind of thing. And I think that's where we're at here. And we've
Yes.
had some conversations off of the podcast to
Mhm.
discuss this, and I it's going to drive me nuts for the rest of my life that I don't know
Yes.
why.
Yeah.
Just to summarize it, we have some custom roles in our app. We have an admin role and a general user role. The admin role has elevated privileges when it comes to the ACLs on certain tables. So they'll be able to add foundational data, manage it, delete it, etc. But a user will only be able to read it. In one of these tables, which is set up just like the other one, I wish I could tell you, like I spent a whole football game going through this
Oh
Monday
no.
Night Football.
Oh no.
Yeah, doing a side by side comparison. Well, because it's a learning experience, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to, and comparing the one table that did work to the one that doesn't. There was the only difference was the name
Yes.
and the columns, of course, but everything else was
Yeah.
exactly the same. Finally, I just said, well, I'm going to make a new one, start over in it in my own update set so I didn't, mess up your work. And lo and behold, it works. So it's not satisfying at the end, but sometimes, like I said, you just have to let it go and move forward. And that's kind of where
So,
we're at.
and
Go ahead.
speaking on the update sets, we
Mm-hmm.
had, I'm in the internship, and they showed us a new way to basically move our update set over to the new one,
Mm-hmm.
kind of in a faster way instead of going in and making sure every single one of them. So
Oh,
I'll have
really?
to show you that later. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's
Yeah.
great.
So
So
I was
what we're
like,
talking about,
oh, okay.
yeah, what we're talking about here is if you have a customer update in one of your update sets that's in the wrong one, I had to go through the manual way of moving it over from update set 1 to update set 2 to the correct one. And this was a very manual process, but it sounds like there's a faster way to do it, like maybe a list view or something like that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, is it opening?
It was
So if you go
awesome.
to
I was like,
customer updates
oh,
and then open in a new window. Okay.
well,
Well,
you
yeah, I
have
look
to,
forward to you showing me. Go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. I was gonna say, I think you have to move it to, um, you have to move the state to something, and then it brings it up, and you can just go through and like control and click them, and then change them to the new update set. So you can do it like in a, I guess, a
Mm,
faster way instead of
okay.
doing like we were doing, where we went in and then went all the way down and found the
Yeah.
update set that we wanted to move it to,
Hmm.
and going through that
Yeah.
when there's
Going to each
300 of them.
custom.
Yeah,
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 it takes a
yeah,
while. Right.
yeah.
Okay. No,
So
that's great. So
yeah,
efficiency to get to that outcome is always going to be something that's important.
yes.
And yeah, that's a learning opportunity for you to
Yeah.
teach me something. That's
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah. I will
So
say that
then go
it's
ahead.
just been, like, awesome to see how, even in the internship, how everybody does it differently, but we all have the same results,
Hmm.
and it's pretty cool.
And that, okay, well, that brings me to one of my favorite topics called ServiceNow governance.
Okay.
So, one of the best things in the platform is also a double-edged sword. And that
Yes.
is you can accomplish the same outcome in multiple ways. I can show and hide a field through a UI policy, I can do it through a client script, etc. So
Yes.
therefore, when everybody's doing it differently, think of an enterprise and how hard would that be to manage? How hard would that be for me to know and build it this one way and then cover for Sarah on vacation and learn Sarah's way and try to update it,
Yes.
etc.
Yeah.
And this is where a governance program really will accelerate that delivery
Okay.
because you'll be able to do things in a unified manner and everybody's very consistent.
Yes.
So, this speaks to technical governance and best practices or leading practices, is what it's being called now, and
Yes.
making sure that everybody's on the same page, that the code reviews are the same, that the QA is the same, and that
Yes.
it's not just an evaluation of did I deliver the outcome, but also did I deliver the outcome and align to the technical strategic or the technical governance that we've
Yes.
established.
Yes.
So we're kind of doing that with ours. And I don't know if you see it, but just yet. But when I think we get into a bit of a zoom out mode, because right
Yes.
now we're very granular, you'll be able to see that everything was done in the same way in that tech specs form.
Okay.
So part of our, we add a custom column to the story table, which is called technical specifications. And in there, we have all of the technical details that is required to deliver it. And this kind of imposes the governance strategy. And we'll discuss some of the philosophies behind it. Actually, we can talk about one of them now. One of the biggest philosophies that I do with all of my technical governance is write things for a junior developer to maintain. Maybe
Okay.
not implement, but to maintain it. because that's always going to be the cheapest in the long run. So everybody's worried about implementation costs from the start, and that is a
Yes.
large thing. But the overall, the largest cost comes from maintenance, regression testing, all of that kind of stuff. So having it be able to be updated and debugged or investigated by someone at a junior or even a standard developer level is going
Yes.
to be the cheapest, and you don't always have to go to the senior dev to figure stuff out. Sometimes there's you know a bit of a challenge to get people to write things, especially
Yes.
code, in that simple way, but it is so much more readable and cheaper for the organization in the long haul.
Absolutely.
So that's how I like to do it. Now I can still
Yeah.
work with a team that wants to, let's do everything in 5 lines of code and have, the longest if statement and all this other thing
Yeah.
that they want to have. But at the
Well,
same, oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I was gonna say, just being in the internship, like, it gives us the ability to mess up as well, and to say, "No, well, what was your thinking, when you did that, and how can we, make it better?" For, like, the upgrades and everything else. So,
Hmm.
it kinda gives us a, we're thinking and we're problem solving to say, "Hey, how would you do this, and how is it gonna benefit the application?"
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Upgrades are another major consideration,
Yes.
especially if you are updating something that exists in the baseline. There needs to be really tight governance and controls around that.
Yes.
And when I'm talking about this governance, I'm talking about empowering developers to make the same decision. So it's about giving them a decision-making framework that they can then go off and execute on their own.
Absolutely.
So I don't want to be asked to approve stuff as the architect unless it's something big or something very complex or has a large impact. But I want developers to make the same type of decision, land in the same thing, almost like, my favorite Price is Right game, Plinko. You kind of
Oh,
want
yeah.
them all to
I
land
love
in the
that one.
same place. Yeah. So that's really what effective technical governance will deliver. And when all the developers are able to make the same types of decisions and have the same types of frameworks to use to land in those decisions, then everybody can start building without having to, build by committee. Because I think we've all been
Absolutely.
in those sprint meetings, and find out, everybody's discussing and debating, and there goes 45 minutes, and we still haven't decided UI policy or client script. And those are the ones where I'm off camera going, like,
Yeah. And then you
come
have
on,
to make
guys.
another meeting for the meeting you just had.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
we derailed that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Gotta love
death by
those.
meeting. Hmm. So yeah, next steps with our app are I've got some more stories to build and some more enhancements for you to
Okay.
flesh out all of the rest of the foundational pieces. And then we're going to actually move into the forms piece. Now I know we kind
Yay.
of put some of it on hold because we were looking at a few other things,
Yes.
especially with the exam that was coming up. So that also happens all the time. So
Yes.
it's good for you to have gone through putting stuff on pause because something of a higher priority came up, because that's
Yeah,
actually part
absolutely.
of the real world experience. I'm going through that right now with a client where
Yes.
it's just tell me when you'll be able to readdress this so
Yep.
that we can then, tell the project manager and they can adjust the project plan. And
Yeah.
the earlier we know it, the cheaper it is to
Yeah.
manage.
That's life. I mean, things change all the time.
Hmm.
So, but
That's
yeah.
true. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, well, I think once we get through this ITSM piece, I'm not sure when we'd be able to do our app demo, but I would like to, start to look at that through a sprint. But we'll settle that between us.
Yeah.
But keep tuning in on this these series, because we will eventually have Sarah present her app live.
Yay.
Yeah, and we may even take a few questions on that one,
Yeah.
just to make sure that people kind of understand or are able to follow along
Well, yeah.
on why we decided a few things, and some of the other considerations that led to the approach we took. So this was a purely academic app as well. So we'll have to
Yes.
take that into consideration. There are certain things that we put in here to deliberately teach different skill sets that you'll be able to apply. So you've got a
Yes.
lot more tools in your tool belt
Yes.
already, and you're going to now branch into some service catalog stuff. And
Yay.
we may even look into doing things for mobile.
Yay. I love
So
service
that would
catalog.
be,
So
yeah, that was the first thing I started with in ServiceNow. And,
yeah.
being a long time request management system analyst and business analyst,
Yes.
yeah, I love service catalog and
Yeah.
still
I
enjoy it.
love
Everybody needs it.
yeah, I just love how like everything is like fitting together. And I'm like, okay, well that's making sense to me now. So
Mm-hmm.
even when I'm like I don't know the answers and having to go and research it and find it, and I'm like, okay, I overcomplicated it, but I got it now. So
Yeah. There's a couple funny jokes that go along with this. So it's just the developers all over engineering everything, and then it's like, well, just add a column, and you're done, right?
yeah,
Move on. The other one that I find funny and true for myself is that sometimes I'll be happy to spend 6 hours fighting with a problem
yeah,
rather than spending 15 minutes reading documentation.
yeah.
Looking at you, a few APIs out there. Decision tables. I'm still arguing with the decision table API piece because I've got some use cases to use those in code. And
Yeah.
yeah, but as you can tell, I will park my frustration and maybe address that during Sunday football this week.
Right.
Your Titans are doing pretty good, aren't they?
I don't think so.
No? Okay. Well, better than my Patriots.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
We're ready for some college ball tomorrow night, so
Oh
that's
yes, that's your bag more is the
so
college ball, right? Who
yeah,
do you
my husband.
support in the college?
Well, I support the Arkansas Razorbacks because I'm from Arkansas, but my
Mm-hmm.
husband and most of our friends support the Georgia Bulldogs. So they are playing Alabama tomorrow night. So go dogs.
Oh,
But they're actually at Alabama. So we do a big shindig with our friends and hang
oh,
out, and
nice.
so hopefully,
So, how do you
hopefully the
and your
dogs win.
husband make that conflict work? That's he just is a because you
Well,
guys cheer for separate teams, right? Like
well,
that could
I
be
support the
heated.
dogs. I don't mind.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Fair enough.
yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, unless they're
We're,
playing Arkansas, but Arkansas hasn't been that good the last couple of years. But
mm,
I think they're trying to make a comeback. Hopefully,
oh, nice. Well, that's
yeah.
exciting.
And then he gets frustrated watching the Titans, so he's got to have a team that wins.
Something that can yeah. Yeah, we know those. We know that feeling. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
last Sunday he was like, I'm just going to turn off the TV. That's all I have.
Uh, yeah,
So
yeah. This game is over. I know it's halfway through the second quarter, but
yeah,
I
yeah,
can tell what's going down.
yeah. So
Okay, well, next steps for us are continuing the app development. You're focusing on the ITSM piece,
yes,
going end to end through both programs,
hmm
the simulators if they are any
yes,
any simulators, and then also the exam prep
yes,
piece. So that's all available on Now Learning. If you're out there taking an exam and preparing for it, then make sure that you do all of that. One big hint I can give you is that if it is bolded, I recommend that you memorize it.
yes,
And hint or tip number 2 is memorizing all the roles and what is the minimum role to accomplish something.
yes,
And when I say that, think of like the ITIL role. The ITIL role will allow me to approve a record. But if I only need to approve something in the ITSM module, then I just need put you on the spot. Which one?
Oh, why did you put me on the spot?
Business stakeholder. Business
Business
stakeholder. Sorry.
stakeholder. Okay. There
Yes.
you
So understanding that is going to help you with those exams. And then,
Yes.
when they do those questions where it's like this role has an S and the other one doesn't,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. A few things make me a little more upset than that. It's like, really, that's not going to help me implement something.
Yeah.
But,
I know.
they have to test.
When I logged in and I started going through like the first 10 questions, I was like, ooh, So I'm like, I must have missed
Mhm.
something here because,
Yeah.
like question 20, I was like, oh, I know that one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We sometimes when you're doing those tests,
Yeah.
you'll get through and you're like, oh, I'm going to go through the
Yeah.
first 10, and I don't know any of these, and that tells you right away you've studied the wrong material, or
Yes.
something went wrong in the preparation,
Yeah.
and you kind of have to retool it. Been there, done
Yeah.
that. Welcome
And
to
l
the club
Yeah.
again. So,
Yeah. When I passed the CSA, it took me like 15 minutes or less to take it.
oh, did it?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I was like, "Oh, I feel a little confident here," and then I passed. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Well, that's probably why, because I understood it." So,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I like to at least review it 2 or 3 times. I have a
Yes.
habit of whipping through stuff and not really slowing myself down and reading it. So that has caused me test taking problems all the way back to high school. So
Yes. So,
now, I've
yeah.
kind of implemented a bit more discipline,
Yeah.
so that
I usually have a whiteboard right here. I took it down
yeah,
for the podcast, but
yeah,
what I do is kinda talk myself through it, like,
hmm
why do I need to know this? And kind of make it, um, understandable for myself.
oh, cool,
So
super
I
cool.
kinda, like, make a story out of it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So and then I write it down, like, 100 times, so
Yep, and right, I find I remember it better if I write it down
Yes.
versus reading it. And
Yes.
then back, years ago, I used to drive in to take the exam
Mhm.
in person at a proctor location,
Yes.
and I would read out all of my notes and record it on my phone, and then as I'm
Oh,
driving, play the recording.
that's smart.
I'm like, yeah, I don't need to, listen to the same songs again. I can, kind of keep it going, and I
Yeah.
found that has helped. So everything I try and do is just, can I tip the scales towards success a little bit more
Yes.
every time?
Yeah. So I usually I do a couple cleanings a month. Like I would say every other week I'm doing cleanings because
Hmm.
that's my therapy. But
Yeah,
something I can do is record my notes and listen to it while I'm cleaning houses and
nice.
stuff. So that's good. I like that.
That's cool.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to address? Yeah.
No, I
Okay.
think
Well,
that
we're
was it.
excited to keep going. Best of luck with the studying and the preparation for the
Thank you.
exam. I've got my stories to write,
Yeah.
and I'll drop them into your instance as well as
Okay.
soon as they're ready and
Sounds good.
let you know. But focus on the exam. Best of
Yeah.
luck, and we
Thank
will
you.
talk to everybody in a month.
Yep.
Okay.
That sounds
All
good.
right.